Okay.
I immediately started focal points
Cool.
when I left here, and as I said, I think we met Wednesday.
Okay.
By Thursday, I was able to, at a focal point, say, I'm not really feeling well, but I'm fueled.
Right.
And I'm rested, and was able to knock down through things to say, oh, yeah, allergies. Because that's not a constant thing with me. Right. It's on and off.
Sure.
So I've been able to deal with the allergy stuff without having to take antihistamines, because that really serves my system.
Yeah.
So I've been dealing without antihistamines, and I found that it's given me greater objectivity on, I would call them many focal points. Now, if I stop during the day, I realize I'm just going a mile a minute and stop. Where am I?
Okay.
And start with it. Am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Am I tired? Do I need to take a nap? What's going on? And it's given me a lot of focus, and
that mindfulness piece.
It's that mindfulness piece. And then the question that drove me for the rest of the week was, when you observe something and you can't not judge it, you look at it and you immediately go,
okay.
What do you do with that?
Well,
and it had nothing to do with food. It was a personal thing.
Okay. Well, one, the question you ask, so again, question. We want to be objective. We want to get clinical.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to ask questions. So when we notice ourselves judging something, feeling guilty about something, getting frustrated with something, we want to ask ourselves questions of like, well, where is this coming from? Why am I experiencing this? What did the person, what happened that left me either feeling or doing this or acting this way?
Get clinical to get away from it.
Yeah, it takes us into that perspective. It gives us a perspective change, and it helps us really identify subjectively and objectively what it is that's going on. And sure, we might still do that thing or feel that way or whatever, but then we can learn from it. So that helps us because how do we learn things? We don't learn things from succeeding necessarily. Yeah, success is great. We don't learn things when things are going well. We learn things by how we get through things and how we have those mishaps or have those frustrating points and get through them and experience them. So I guess looking back on it now, could you say, like, what led to that experience? Why did you feel that judgment, and where was that judgment coming from? And then also to ask yourself too, is like we talk about narratives, those conditioned stories and all, is this something that is automatic for me in the sense of, is it something that I've habitually thought of or done or believed in that's led me to this? And is it really reality right now? So is it realistic?
Because that's one of the first things I noticed was to get some distance on it and say, what is this? And I immediately could say, this is my childhood.
Okay.
This is ingrained. I didn't dream this up, or I didn't have a bad experience. This was taught to me.
Gotcha.
And so then I was able to say, well, that's why I reacted. That's perfectly normal.
Right. Yes.
I've been taught to react this way.
Okay.
And now I need to work on the flip side of it.
So how could you, would you do something different if you were given an experience?
If I had a reaction like that again, I believe that rather than just being overwhelmed and either angry or upset, because I've been able to do this at other times in my life, just kind of stand back for a minute and go,
right, and that's that thought stopping, right? Yeah. So the first step is, we catch ourselves in that thought process. This is really all about cognitive behavioral therapy. And shifting our mindset, it's very similar to shifting our habits. But the first thing we want to do is we want to identify the thought, right? So you identify the thought, then you want to stop it essentially. So it's called thought stopping. And then we want to, ask ourselves those questions. Is it reality? Is it true right now?
Mhm.
Is it useful right now? So we can ask ourselves those things. Sometimes it's more or less important to determine where it comes from. But I think more so when we want to go for a forward aspect, yes, I think it's like in therapy, counseling, psychology type thing. If you were like sitting down with a counselor, I would definitely say like, let's root back to like where it comes from. And that's something definitely you can do. As a coach, from a coaching perspective, it's like, I want to help you and that's fine. But then we want to look at more so than the why is it useful? Is it realistic? Is it real? True. And then how can we reframe it?
Yes.
So, and that's where we kind of apply that, like, okay, in the future, how can I approach this something like this might happen again. If it might be a confrontation with somebody I know that I don't know, I don't like, or something like that.
Something that's ingrained from your childhood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All you can do is hope to diffuse it every time you experience it.
How might
to give it a little less power?
How might that look for you?
Oh, for me, it's.
How can you bring awareness to that? Like, how can you bring like that conscious awareness or mindfulness to that in the future type thing? And almost like instead of quote reacting, to take that, like, how can you allow yourself to take that pause, or create that pause that we want to do for mindfulness? Because then when we create that pause, then we can respond instead of react. We can check in and instead of react. So
yeah, I remember you say to yourself, I remember this. I've been here before.
Yeah.
And also I think each time I have experienced something with that kind of a radical reaction, it scars a little bit, so it doesn't hurt quite so much the next time.
Sure. Yeah, it's like we kind of build up that resilience in a way, I think, too.
Well, it's not so scary because we live through it. We know it's not going to kill us.
Right. Absolutely.
It just feels like it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's okay, being a little uncomfortable or something. Okay, so that's good.
Something else that came into my life this week that I'll just share with you because it's part of my world now. I was reading an article about women who deny themselves pleasure. And I'm not really sure why I started to read it.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was reading it, I realized that my MO is a to-do list. And I remember you talking to us once about doing something nice for yourself, getting a hot tub or something. And I thought, I do everything I want. I don't need to give myself permission to do anything. Au contraire, because I don't give myself permission to do things. And the author of the article was saying, on a daily basis, you need to do something that's pleasurable and recognize that it's pleasurable and you're doing it. And I was able on Sunday to be out in my garden and say, this is my choice.
Yeah.
This is my time. This time in the morning, this 5:30 until 7:30 when I show up at my mother's.
Right.
That's my time, and I choose that for myself.
That's great.
I never saw it that way before.
Gotcha.
The calculus was always have to work out, gotta do this, gotta do this. No,
so you get to do this. You choose to do that. That's awesome. Where do you think, like, before the thinking or the approach came from before? Was it that just you're kind of just routine, like just going about it? Is that
it's my upbringing.
Deserving
I was raised to be productive. We didn't do vacations because that's, somehow I guess you have to earn a vacation. I don't know, right? We didn't do vacations. We didn't do anything that was special in my mind as a kid.
Sure. Yeah.
It was just day after day,
routine.
Day after day. And then once I had children, I felt that was the only way you could run a household.
Gotcha.
And what was so interesting about picking up this article when I did was I suddenly thought, I don't have to run a household. I'm an adult who lives with an adult.
Right.
We don't
Different.
feel like doing the dishes or doing the laundry or changing.
Don't really
Is
have to.
somebody going to yell at us?
No.
Right. My commitment is to take care of my mother, and it's just, I'm just kind of taking it all in now as what's pleasure and what am I doing for myself versus what am I doing for others. That still is pleasure. It gives me pleasure.
Sure.
To my mother.
Absolutely. I mean, I truly believe that.
It's been part of though being able to crank down the week, crank down that.
Yeah, the gas pedal that we're always on, go, go, go. Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that for sure. Sounds like a little bit of like, you know, almost like allowing yourself to like sit back and like, does that deserving, that feeling of deserving.
Yes, deserving.
Yeah, and it's almost, you know, we get that shame and, you know, and the opposite of that is like, we allow ourselves to have things, and that guilt and shame and not allowing ourselves is what keeps us back from things. Similarly to like cravings and things like that, but like pleasure, enjoyable things, hobbies, activities, and all. Like definitely, I had that kind of a similar experience when I was about to go buy my truck. I got to the dealership and I'm like, you know, in my head I was thinking, I'm like, well, you know, people are gonna say, oh, why did you buy this, or you shouldn't have done this, or you should do this instead. And I'm like, and almost like talking myself down. It's like, why am I doing, like, why is it whenever I want to buy something, I almost convince myself out of it, whether it's large or small. It's hard. It's I don't know why I do it either. It's really weird.
Women do it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we don't.
I don't know if it's because we're always there for people and we just kind of like the expectation, you know, that's we think is there, or the.
Oh, we're also bred to deny ourselves.
Yep. You stay at home while the guys go out and do their thing and all. Yep. Absolutely. For sure. You feeling good? Have you started up the meditation or deep breathing?
Yes.
Yeah.
On a simple level. I'm sorry, was I supposed to text you?
Okay, it's all good.
Just finding my place in my floor again and
Okay.
making the time. Actually, that's kind of what led me to the pleasure thing.
Okay.
I went to my space and there was a magazine on the floor and I thought, I'm going to give myself a couple of moments to decompress.
Uh-huh.
And it was just there, which is
Oh, wow.
things too.
That's nice. Very good.
Yeah.
Good.
My meditation is not as desperate as it used to feel.
Okay.
It's not like I'm doing this because I feel better when I meditate. I'm calmer. I don't know if you've ever experienced that kind of way, either praying or meditating when you're desperate and you know you're not
So
communicating.
yeah, it's just not there. Not the same effect. But okay, awesome. Well,
And it's led to better choices in eating.
Mhm.
I guess goes with freedom and all of this. You know, my husband bought a cinnamon roll thing on
Okay.
Saturday, and you know what? We threw half of it away.
Huh.
It sat on the kitchen counter. Each of us had a slice.
Yeah.
Okay, it's there. It's
good.
Why don't people teach us to be comfortable with who we are? I keep
Well,
wondering about that.
you know, the thing is we're born like that. We're born like with the ability to self-regulate, to understand ourselves, to like, you know, that we cry when we're hungry and we.
But somebody kicks
smile.
that shit out of us. They kick that awareness out of us.
Exactly.
As soon as they can shame
Absolutely.
us into doing something else.
It's shame, it's conditioning, it's pushing, you know, instead of asking kids, you know, are you hungry? Or, you know, try this, and encouraging them to try things at least and, you know, get curious. We tell them. So we start telling them, you have to eat now, finish your plate, or, you know, behave, or, you know, don't misbehave, or it's like instead of guiding them and giving them options and educating them, and then allowing them to essentially like teaching them how to be discerning, teaching them how to be mindful. And I think that is where it's at, because we really do have those innate capabilities and those innate like feedback sensations, we start losing them around our childhood, anywhere. I mean, I could say it probably starts even younger depending on child to family nowadays. But definitely by the time we're probably 6, 7, 8, maybe early teens, we really, many kids don't know how to regulate themselves. They don't know how to pay attention. And then that translates into body image issues or not looking externally for those answers. But I think and that's, the mindfulness practice really gets us back to like that almost like childlike, like how we were born. So
there's a public school in Maryland, I know that does it because I know the school psychologist there. They teach children to self-regulate. They teach them how to extricate themselves from the situation, and the teacher may help and say,
right,
looks like you're coming undone. How
right,
about we take a break?
right,
And they can go to some place to meditate. They can sit quietly somewhere. They get a period to extricate themselves,
sure,
pull themselves back together and come back into the classroom, and it makes the classroom a more enjoyable place for the kids to be. There's not a fight going on or
right.
somebody being disciplined. And the student has the power to guide their emotions, to deal with their day.
Yeah, that emotional regulation is super important. Yeah, to be able to like understand and like take that pause, like we talked about to begin with today. It's just like taking that pause. What it really comes down to is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the antidote to pretty much anything. It's, are we going to be present? Are we going to be practice that conscious awareness so that we can take that pause? So that, and then it's relearning, what is your body telling you? Why am I reacting like this? What is this feeling? And that's a whole nother thing. So it's like, yes, we have to practice that mindfulness, but then we have to understand like, what am I feeling? And then also trust ourselves to feel those feelings, because that can be very uncomfortable. A lot of times, sometimes we stop that mindfulness because they're uncomfortable feelings. And at times too, what I'm learning too is that emotional regulation kind of roots back to childhood, where either you were almost shamed for sharing your feelings, emotions, or they were too much, or maybe a parent either overexpressed or underexpressed how they felt. And I think that definitely affects us too, because then we learn from our elders. We learn from that person that teaches us, our parent or coach or whoever. And when they don't have the ability to regulate themselves, we learn off of that. And so that's why, we might either behave the same way or we guilt or shame ourselves because we think it's our fault sometimes, or just all those different things. But again, mindfulness helps us bring us back to that. And then the fear, it's just getting comfortable with those uncomfortable feelings, because there's really no, anger is not necessarily bad. Sadness is not necessarily bad. Anxiety is not necessarily bad. How an emotion or a feeling works is that we feel it, but after about 90 seconds, it dissipates. And so for somebody, say like an emotional eater or something, they feel that whatever it is, and then they go straight to turn food. But if you can just get over that hump, and that's why intermittent sampling, where I have you have that food, put it away for a little bit, go do something else. Eventually, sometimes, when we stay mindful and all, the practice will come where we start paying attention and we ask ourselves, okay, how am I feeling? Am I okay? Am I satisfied? No. But everything takes time. I think that this fast-paced nature of our lifestyles is perpetuating this mindlessness and this disconnection from ourselves, disconnection from our feelings, emotions, what our body's telling us, biofeedback. But it's a good point. It's true. Absolutely. Well, let's keep that up. Let's keep up your anchor actions, those focal points, and practicing mindfulness. So just, ask yourself, what are the foundations, like you're doing, and we'll go from there. And then we'll plan on next Monday afternoon.
Monday, okay, we're gonna switch it up.
Yep.
Great.
Monday, 1:30, and I'll send you guys an email. So
thank you. Have a great week.
You as well. Have a fantastic one. I will see you Friday.